Hi YouTube. So it's been quite a while since the first episode came out, and I'm sorry for being so late, but I've had quite a lot of things going on lately. Anyway, let's continue with the build, and welcome to part 2 of the Komatsu HM300 build. So here I am outside. I'm going to paint the parts, but I have to be careful. I'm lucky there's no wind today. I don't want to paint my cars in the same process. So let's get painting. All the parts are now painted and they are ready to be assembled. I was thinking we should just begin assembling the rear chassis and then we move on to the front chassis and then we join them together. Let's begin with the rear suspension. Now first I have to press fit bearings into these holes. Now I'm going to press fit 2 bearings on each side, so there's 4 bearings total. So when assembling the rear suspension, you have to note that this does not go both ways. You can't mount this whichever way you like. These sloped sides should point backwards and this side to the front. Now the main reason for that is this hole right here. This will lead the motor wires to the front. And the second reason is because these slopes, they are here so that this piece does not interfere with the wires to the rear lights. Slide this wire through here. Hold on. Like so. Then you put this axle, line these holes up with these holes. Then you put a rod, make sure that the holes line up, which they almost do. Now, I'm not using lock nuts on the back or in the front here. That's because the lock nuts are so big, they ruin the entire look of the ADT. So we're just gonna put some glue on the backside and a little glue on the front. So this is the most rear axle and this will be the middle axle. Now let's put this on its head and we do the same thing with this one. Put the wire through the hole towards the other axle and then just let it stay right there. And then you take another wire So before we install these axles onto the frame, I'm going to install the rear lights because now I can get in there without this being in the way.
I'm still hiding all my secrets, and I just need someone I believe in. Will you wait for me while I'm still healing? You know what to say every time I start to slip away. And I surrender, I surrender. There's no more falling down, I've hit the ground. So I surrender. And I surrender. There's no more falling down, I've hit the ground.
Tell me if you're hurt and I'll be there. Carry you away to the promised land. Feel your heartbeat and don't be scared. 'Cause I'll be there, yes I'll be there. You and I, we can fly anywhere you wanna go. Find a place we can hide, we can make it on our own. All along for the ride, to the stars just follow. You and I, side by side, dancing in your halo. You and I, we can fly anywhere you wanna go. Find a place we can hide, we can make it on our own. All along for the ride, to the stars just follow. You and I, side by side, dancing in your halo.
Well, that concludes the rear chassis so far. I'm still gonna have to mount the actuators, but we'll do that later.
Like a fever taking over.
Alright, let's continue on to the front chassis.
In your head, think I'm leaving. In your mind, I know that you're hurting. That I'll be there, yes I'll be there. You and I, we can fly anywhere you wanna go. Find a place we can hide, we can make it on our own. Go along for the ride, to the stars just follow. You and I, side by side, dancing in your halo. You and I, we can fly anywhere you wanna go. Find a place we can hide, we can make it on our own. Go along for the ride, to the stars just follow. You and I, side by side, dancing in your halo. Dancing in your halo.
So the steering actuator is now in place, and I can see that I have not pressed bearings in here yet. So I'm going to press bearings here and underneath here now. So now I have to press fit the bearing in there. I could have sworn that I designed the bearing to be on this piece, but apparently not. So I'm going to have to take off this and put the bearing in. Okay, so the bearings are in. I'm going to put this back on now. And then we can put in the electronics, because I'm going to fit the electronics in front here. And I have to do that before I put on this piece. And the battery tray comes on top of that. Yeah. So let's begin with the electronics. So this is the transmitter and receiver that I will be using. This is a FlySky i6S and it's a 10-channel transmitter. Now for the ESC on the drive motors, for the wheels, I will be using the Servonaut G22. Now the cool thing about this is that it simulates gear shifting and it simulates the weight of the machine, so you can program how much acceleration and how much deceleration you have on the machine, so it looks more real. So I'm going to be putting this in, and I'm going to be putting in a Servonaut SM7 sound card. This has, I think it's 5 different engine sounds to choose from, and also it has a reverse beeper and a horn and gear noises. You got air compressors and stuff, so this is really nice. And this one hooks right up to the Servonaut ESC. And for the steering actuator and the lifting actuators, I will be using the standard 1060 ESCs that I recommend in my parts list. Now these are cheap ESCs, and they are very reliable. So let's begin with the Servonaut ESC. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to connect these blue wires to the motors, because these are the motor wires from the ESC. Alright, so before I connect the motor wires to the ESC, I need to figure out which way the motors spin when I connect the battery onto the red. Okay, so they spin backwards. Now doing this is important because you want the front motors to spin the same way as the rear chassis motors, right? So now I'm going to perform the same test on the rear chassis. Now if the motors turn backwards when I plug it in, then we're good to go. If not, I have to swap the poles on this wire. I'll show you in a bit. Alright, so I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, you can see the motors. So be careful when doing this though. You don't want the poles to interact with each other. This is important, very, very important. Okay, so the motors on this chassis goes forward when I plug in the red to the red. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to plug these ones backwards onto the front ones. It's hard to explain, but I'll try to show you. So in order to make the motor spin the same way, I'm going to have to put the red wire from these motors onto the black wire on these motors, and then connect them to the ESC. It doesn't matter which one you put on the ESC, because you can just reverse that later. But it is very important that all the motors spin the same way, of course. Now this is a braided wire. This will camouflage these wires. it will look much better with this one. So I'm going to put this on top of these wires right here. I'm going to solder on the battery connector now. So all the ESCs are connected to the same power source and they are all ready to mount into the receiver. Now I removed the red wire on both of these ESCs because they will interfere with different voltages than this Servonaut ESC right here. And if you operate the receiver with two different power sources, you might destroy the receiver. So I guess the next step will be to install this sound card. So what's important about this is when you order a Servonaut sound card, you don't get the speaker, which means you have to buy the speaker yourself. When you run 12 volts like I do, you need speakers with 8 ohm. Now, I bought these speakers. You can find these on AliExpress. They were super cheap and they are 8 ohm. And they also have a very nice sound to them. So here they are. Now, they are pretty beefy for their size. And I also made a speaker box. Now I'm going to assemble this onto the sound card so we can test the sounds and adjust everything. So let's get started. So these are program cards. Servonaut has this program unit that you put this card into, and then you can see the lights which settings is adjusted. Now we will do that afterwards. I'm just going to install the sound unit before. So here's the SM7 sound. Now if you read everything on this, it should be quite easy. Also there's instructions on how to install it, so I'm just going to install it. But basically this is the power to the battery, and this is the speaker wires, these yellow ones right here, and these are all different programming and settings. Now this is the volume adjuster, of course, and then F4 and F3, these are cables that modify sounds and sirens and stuff. It's all in the instructions on how to use these. And this wire goes to the ESC. If you don't have a Servonaut ESC, you can plug this into a Y cable on the ESC. And this is the one you start the sound with. You press the button and it starts. And then you press the button again and it stops. Since I have Servonaut sound card and a Servonaut ESC, I'm going to just plug this blue ESC cable into the ESC. Here you can see it says sound, and it's got labeled which one is which. So the one pointing upwards should be the brown cable. So it should go like this. There we go. So after reading the instructions, we're going to put F4, this little cable right here. We're going to plug this onto the dump bed ESC, the same wires that go to the actuators. So I'm going to plug this into these wires right here. Now what F4 does, this wire, it registers when you use this ESC, and it will raise the RPM when you dump the bed. I'm going to plug this onto this ESC right here. So what you want to do when you connect the speakers together, you want to plug them in parallel. Do not put this in series, put them in parallel. Which means when you connect them together, you want this wire from the plus to go to the plus on the other speaker. So the speakers are in, and we can continue assembling the sound card. So this is the battery wire for the sound card. Now we are going to plug it into the ESC right here. So now we can begin connecting the sound card and ESCs to the receiver. So this is the transmitter. We're going to put it on, and we're going to select model 2 because that's a new model. So I'm going to reset this model to make sure that everything is reset. So what we want to begin with is figure out which channels are doing what. So I want to drive this truck with this stick forward and backward. As you can see, it says channel 2, but I'm going to actually change my sticks mode here to M2 because that's my preferred way. Now you can see it's channel 3, and I want to turn the truck by using this stick, which is channel 1. And then I need it to dump the load that I want the bed to lift, so I have to adjust that in function. We go to auxiliary channels and channel 5. I'm going to make the dumping mechanism be on channel 5, so let's put that on VR. As you can see, it says VRB right here. I'm going to swap that to VRB. So that's channel 5. Now I want to start the truck, I mean the sound card. I want to start the truck with this one. And if you read here, it says SWC. I'll have to set another auxiliary channel on channel 6 for SWC. So now I start the truck by using this switch, which means I have to plug the starter for this sound card in channel 6. So let's begin plugging in this receiver. Now, as I said, this is the starter for the sound card. Now this is channel 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. So I'm going to plug in the tipper box ESC, which is on channel 5. Right here. And then this ESC will be the steering. I'm going to plug it in channel 4. No, sorry, channel 1. Channel 1. So I'm going to install the Servonaut ESC now. The Servonaut G22 has 2 wires to plug into the receiver. And the blue wire, if you plug this one in by itself, the ESC will operate like any other ESC on the market. And if you insert this one, the transparent plug, you will get a cruise control, which means when you press forward, it keeps the momentum and keeps going at that speed until you brake manually. So what this plug does is it allows you to swap gears between forward and backwards. I'm going to use both of these because I like the cruise control. So I'm going to install the blue wire to channel 3. And I want the gear shifts to be on channel 4. I'm going to plug it in there. And I'm going to bind the receiver to the transmitter. So you take this bind plug and you put it in the channel that says BVCC all the way up here. And once this plug is in, this LED light will flash rapidly. Put power to the ESCs. Here you can see it flashes. And then you go to the system menu and press RX bind. And it says bind OK. And now you can put the transmitter away. You can remove the bind plug. Don't unplug the battery, just remove the bind plug. And you're ready. So, if you remember, I plugged the starter for the sound card on this channel right here. And it works. So, you press this. You can reverse this if you want, but I press it down and to the center to start the engine. And then I have a horn when I press up. So let's begin adjusting the sound for this truck. I better do it now because I'm going to put everything, all the electronics inside here, and I won't be able to adjust it afterwards. So this is the Servonaut program card, and I insert this into the card from the top and down, like so. And then we have to plug in, I unplug the battery by the way, and then we have to plug in the SM7 sound card from this plug right here to the out position on the card. Then we plug this one back into channel 6 where the other one was. Then we plug in the battery. Remember to have the transmitter on. and we press the button right here. So this shows us the settings. Now we can choose to change the engine sound by holding the button. As you can see, there's these are the settings down here, and these are what settings you are changing. And you can also use the transmitter to change the pitch. So this is the sound that I'm going to use on my Komatsu. Now to change the next setting, we just press this without holding it down. And this is how loud the horn is. I think we'll just... No, sorry, this is the horn type. So I'm just going to go with this horn type right here. And this is the turbocharger volume. We want this one to be... And this is the volume of the reverse beeper. Off and little sound. We don't want this one to be too loud. So this is the sound, the volume of the air brake. I'm just going to keep it right there. And the sound of the gearbox. I think I'll keep it down. And the ignition, this is probably the starter volume. Yeah, so I'm also going to keep that a little down. Now these are... I'm not sure what this is. I'm just going to keep it right there. Well, that's how easy it is to program the SM7. It's not a lot of settings to choose from, but the main settings are there. So I'm going to unplug this the battery and unplug the card and begin installing everything.
I can't find my way back to you till you make amends with the demons you've been through. And I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home. Don't let me drown.
So the battery tray is now in place and all the electronics is down here. I left the battery plug and the volume adjuster on top. Also the speakers are in place and all the wires are ready for the rear chassis. So all that is left is the wheels and all the small details and of course the cabin. And I think I'll assemble the hood next.
I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home.
So all the windows are now finished. Now I can see that I have forgotten to paint the sides of the cabin yellow, so I'm going to have to do that now. So I'm going to install lights for this roof, and I will run them through here. And also I will install lights on the hood. Now watching me solder the lights and stuff is boring, so I'm going to do that off camera. I'll be right back. So the lights on the hood are in, and also the lights on the roof, they are also ready to be soldered onto these wires right here. to plug in the battery now and see if all the lights work. We are reaching the end of this build right here, so I'm gonna have to create the stickers for this now. So let's go ahead and do that. So all the stickers are now on and it looks so much better. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put on the handrails and then we will put on the wheels. So this is the wheel hub. This is what the wheels are going to be mounted onto. So this right here is a motor coupler. Now this is called a flange coupling. And the inside diameter right here is 6 millimeters. That's because the motors are 6 millimeters on the shafts. So what I'm going to do now, before I mount these onto the truck, I'm going to mark out where the set screw will hit the axle, and then I will make a groove for this set screw to actually dig into. So here you can see I've created a line, and I'm going to use the Dremel to cut a groove right there. There you can see the groove. So now when I mount this wheel hub onto the motor, it will actually lock itself in place. So I'm going to make all the grooves and mount all the wheel hubs off camera, and I'll see you once it's done.
Blue, the feeling behind my eyes. You stood out 'cause you were in red. Then, against my intentions, I let you turn me violet instead. Summer high, met you in August. New York, back to my cold apartment. Distance sucks, but at least I'm still with you. it's weird.
So there it is. It's finally finished and I think it's looking great. Okay, so now I want to show you how the Servonaut G22 works and all the gear shifting and stuff. You can see that I've balanced the truck off the ground so the wheels can spin freely. Now take note, when I give full throttle it will slowly build itself upwards. I'll show you. Now that's not full speed, but it's now on cruise control, so I have to brake manually to stop it. So I'm going to start the engine now so you can see how this works. Now I think this is fantastic. So that's how the cruise control works. And also I've installed the rear lights. So this is the brake lights. They come on when I brake. And then when I want to drive this in reverse, I have to manually swap the gears to reverse. So what I do then is press this sideways. And when I want to go forward, I press it the other way. So when I enable the motor sound, there will be a reverse beep signal. So when I want to reverse, I put it in reverse and then I press forward, because pressing backwards is the brake. And also, you got a horn if you press the starter button upwards instead of down. And also, if you remember, I put a cable called F4 onto the tipper motor. So I'm going to test that now. I have to start the engine, and when I start tipping the bed, the RPMs on the engines should go up. Perfect. Alright guys, so I was hoping to take the new truck outside for a test run, but it's 11 p.m. right now, so it's getting kind of late. So I'm gonna have to leave that to the next video, and that concludes the Komatsu HM300 build. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!